Okay guys, as promised, we are going to make this little red TF2 like we finished doing this one with our mods. We're going to lower it, we're going to do the interior, we're going to make it look good. So I'm going to shut up, we're going to start on this. Let's go. Hey guys, welcome back. On this episode of ProNoobRC, we're doing our ProNoob twist on the new RC4 drive 124 TF2 that we just finished doing on this one. We had built this one off camera. There's a few posts on our Instagram and our YouTube shorts of this thing, but a lot of guys are asking what we did to lower it, what we did to get a little bit better steering, and just kind of quick paint job and decal job on it. Yeah, so enough of that. Let's start with this guy here. First thing first, the red needs to be painted from the inside. It is far too clear. Even just with the simplest of light, you can see right through it. Where the blue, you don't get that effect. It's a little bit darker and thicker. So we're gonna break this guy down and we're gonna paint the inside of this red. So we need to mask off the whole truck, paint that red, but we'll get into that. Now the first major thing we're gonna do to this thing is pull out the axles. And then we need to start, take out the grease on them. And then we're going to hook this up to our cordless drill, and we're going to run them back and forth, kind of lap the gears in and get that done. Do about 5 minutes on the drill each way, and that's going to get us a lot smoother and just a lot, like the gears more worn in and running more smooth. So we'll start with that, and then we're going to show you guys how we reposition the rear shocks to lower it, how we change the steering links in the front, and then also how we lowered the front shocks to get the truck sitting at a lower COG or center of gravity, or LCG, or whatever you want to call it. So let me grab a couple tools and let's get rolling. Okay guys, we're going to start this with the chassis, as a lot of you guys are going to do your own stuff on the body, so we can put that into part 2 or second part of this video, however Jesse decides to chop it up. So the motor is, when we got ours, you see in the first video that they came with the N6 motor and we had to swap it over to the N30. I was talking with another person in the comments, and I'm pretty sure RC4WD realizes that motor was no good. That's why they'd sent that other one out with the package on the first run vehicles. So I think they're just going to come pre-installed on all the trucks going forward after this. So I don't think you guys have to worry about changing that. But speaking of which, the R6 transmission, which is just one of the little winch gearbox kind of motor dealies. This guy is 30-to-1 ratio, the gearbox inside there. So I just ordered a 50, a 75, and a 100-to-1 gearbox with the 10mm shaft. So once those show up in the next week or so, we're actually going to start lowering the gear ratio down a little bit more yet with using those. So I think with a little bit of work, we can get this thing performing real good. So it's just like anything, going to take just a little bit work to make it better. And a lot of guys were not very happy with the performance of the truck out of the box. They were comparing it to the Horizon Hobby Barrage, and that's not fair. The Barrage has nothing good going for it. The Barrage is just a rebranded piece of garbage China vehicle, the RST or RGT or something like that. Because this is the China one. This is the China RGT or RST, and that's a Barrage. 100% through and through. So mine's just cool though because it's my Pro-Line Jeep body. Woo! Okay. We'll do the shocks last. The first thing I want to do is to pop off these steering links. You will see that the factory, the drag link they put to the front hole here, and they put the tie rod that goes across. I might be saying that back. This might be the tie rod, the drag link. I can't remember anyway. But they put this guy to the front hole, and they put these guys to the rear. If you move this guy, this is going to give you more leverage, so it's going to give you easier steering on the smaller tires, but you're going to get way less travel. So all we're doing is taking this screw and nut, or screw and ball end, moving it back here, moving this guy to the front, this guy to the front. You do have to drill a hole right through because there is no hole from the bottom, but we used a 0.4mm micro index drill bit to drill that out. So that is very simple to do. But these axles are what need the attention first off, so we're going to quickly rip these off the truck. The bit size we're using is 0.050 Make sure you have a high quality dynamite or something or other. You don't want to use Harbor Freight, they'll just strip out your little ball end. So. The nice thing about these is the factory tiny little joints and are actually little CVDs, if you can see that in there. So you can get some really extreme angle, and they'll operate at this like ridiculous angle, which is really nice. Like that's pretty steep steering angle. So there is room that the trucks can perform. We just got to work on them a little longer servo horn, maybe different setup. It would be nice ultimately to see the servo sitting on top of the axle, or if we can find a way to get a panhard in there, but I think we got for now. But you see like this, the shock is not moving, it's stiff, it's rigid. So that needs to be fixed. And like I said, we'll show you how to do that. All you gotta do, same as the rear we showed you earlier, pinch the plastic, and that will start to loosen it up. I like to grab it by the bottom, give it a pinch, kind of pushes the plastic up and around the ball, and then just kind of start squeezing, working around the ball. And now you can see it's starting to get floppy. So you keep working on that as you go, and that's going to get really floppy. This guy needs to be completely done. And the idea is you go like this, they both flop this way, you go like that, they both flop that way, and then you know those are set good. So you got to do the same on the top, take them off the bottom, put them on the top, move them around, get them working, put them in. Very important on micros to have all that stuff working, because that will limit your travel and just the way the truck drives and moves over stuff if the balls are too tight. These are a little bit tight to get apart. You're gonna have to kind of reef on them, and putting them back together is about just as much fun. So just take your time, try not to bust anything. Nice looking little center section, right? Pretty detailed. Paint that silver if you want, looks pretty good. I like how they even got the details for the plunge weld marks where they weld in the axle tubes, the factory. So Jesse's diff already, this is Jesse's truck, mine's a blue one, already hit, my front diff felt like a pile of trash. It was rough and notchy and stuff. His already feels, you can hear it, 10 times better than mine. So that's a good sign. We're gonna open it up though, and we're gonna throw some Cow RC Utter Butter Nutter Butter number 7 in there. It's not their newest formula, but it's their second newest one. Our order's stuck at the border with our friend Sean. But the truck is built out of pretty much like two different size screws, which is pretty nice. So inside here you can see it's actually really nice. All metal gear, full bearings, metal shafts, very nice build, like quality in there. And Jesse's is running really smooth, but significant lack of grease, and the grease that is in there, I don't even think there's any in there really. It's so minor. That's the word we're looking for. Municipality. Yes. Contains cows. Now, you don't need to pack it like it's an ice cream cone or your sister. No, I'm joking. You don't need to pack it like it's an ice cream cone. Just, you know, I see some guys just go ridiculous. You want just a good amount in between there. I went a little bit heavy because, like I said, we are going to close this diff up and we are going to send it on the drill to get a kind of lap the gears together, if you would. Kind of loosen everything up, make sure everything's happy. Now, another major thing is when you're tightening these things up, like we tell you on every single one of the videos where we're building junk, which is most of them, do not over tighten. It's so easy to over tighten this little differential. It's just ridiculous. Like that's it. Like that's tight. Like just enough to the gap is closed. A lot of guys go down to the gap's closed and they give it a quarter turn and it's like, what was that about? Like, you're done. So like my fingers just that's it, done. Can't stress enough, especially working on the minis and the micros, how little of torque you need to be into that screw. It is plastic, it is a binder screw, it ain't going anywhere. So if you're not sure, back it up, go in, go out, just make sure that gap is closed right there. That's it, close the gap. Okay, so we got our trusty no-name drill. The Wonder Drill, that's what we'll call it. I don't know where I got it from. And yeah, I like to go starting on a lower gear. Just start running it, making sure it's nothing's binding. Okay, everything's smooth, and then we'll go to second gear, and then we can send it. Okay, as you can see, that's already getting a really nice feeling just by running it a little bit. I'm gonna keep lapping that gear set just by running it back and forth, and then I'm gonna clear out some of the grease inside there, re-grease it, and do the rear. You don't really need to clear the grease out. You're not gonna make that much of a mess in there, considering it is all fairly new and there's no dirt in there yet, so the truck has not been run. And then we're going to jump back in and show you guys how to lower the suspension on the truck, and then adjust your steering links to get more steering link, lower the center of gravity, and get it looking like this little beauty here. And then once we're done that, we'll get into the body, maybe on the next video. So I'm going to get that done. We'll be right back. Okay, so I've got the front axle back together. I put my C-hubs on, everything good. I just want to run it on the drill and just make sure everything's working good. And I'm going to rotate my steering angles back and forth on the hubs. I've got them separate from each other, but I want to go back and forth full extension. Okay, so that's effortless, just buttery smooth now. So cool. Okay, let's do the steering mod. So factory position, this guy is in the rear hole on the bottom for your drag link that goes across, and then your tie rod that comes down from the pitman arm goes to the front hole. So when that pushes, it's not getting as much range as we could get out of it. So what we do is I'm using a 1.3 millimeter drill bit, micro pin vise they call them. You can pick these up with our friends over at Eliminator RC, keep them in stock there for you. So yeah, what I'm going to do is take the rear hole, I'm going to drill that all the way through. I've already done this because I forgot that we're supposed to record it for you guys, but drill it all the way through, and then you're going to move this guy to the back hole, and then you're just going to move these guys to the front holes. And that's going to give you, surprisingly, like a lot more steering compared to stock, and it's free. So we're going to send that. And we've got our shocks all nice and loose, flopping around just like we want them. A little bit more work to do. This guy's real nice sitting like that, right? This guy's just a pinch more, but getting there. It's getting there. Very nice. So you can see now, get this on the GoPro here for you too. Now with that link being in the rear, such a tiny thing, it's hard to grab. Now like less movement is obviously a lot more, right? So just that little bit of movement, we're almost full lock now compared to before when it was way out here. It's only about a 3 or 4 millimeter difference on the spacing between the holes. Completely different animal, right? It's just, you get more pushing power but less steering angle. So the servo and the trucks are big enough and strong enough, we can move it to the hole and be safe. So really guys, now for the diffs, that pretty much brings us to the end. We just got to put it back together, and then we're going to get into lowering the shock position on the truck. I'll put the front axle back in, the rear one's already done. I'm going to put the front one back in, and then we're going to do the shocks. Very simple, very simple. There's a shock hole right here, and we're just going to re-drill above it with that same drill bit, and we're going to thread in. Now this plastic is super thin, super duper thin, so we want to make sure we thread into there nicely, and we don't strip it out. It's not holding a ton of weight and a ton of force. It will be fine. If you do rip it out, we can put a piece in behind, but I don't think we'll have an issue with that. Now, putting the drive shafts back together, you want to make sure that you clock this piece with this piece. So as you can see, that's flat, so that's how she goes back together. Okay, we'll jump back here in a second when we start to do the shock mount. You don't need to watch. Okay, so we got the front axle back in. I'm going to use my small pin vise drill bit, and I'm going to go about the same distance from the bottom. You got the little space there, about the same distance from the top down, right about there. And we're going to put it in. Now you want to make sure you get it lined up, and you don't want to cut your wires behind, so don't get too rowdy on it. There you go, poke it through, the threads will do the rest. You don't need to clear out the hole. So 3 millimeters doesn't sound like a lot, but on a 1/24th, that's like a 5-inch drop. So here we go. So the front is now lowered. Now we just need to do the back. Now the back is super simple. You don't need to drill any holes at all. I've kind of got this figured out to where these screws pinch these outer axle ends on. So we can take out the top screw here. We'll put that back in the front side of the diff after we take the shock and move it to that hole on the rear. So we're taking the shock from the front of the shock mount here. We're going to move it back there, and we're going to move this guy back on the frame one hole. We can actually even bring that shock back right to the back hole so we can get a nice up and down on it. So there we go. Now we've lowered the shock, we brought it to there. We're going to take that one screw we pulled out, we're going to put it through the front half of the diff. Now you don't need, that's never going to come apart, you don't need to do it, it's just extra due diligence to put it in there. And don't thread it all the way in because it is long enough to go all the way through it. It will push out the other screw we just threaded in. So put it in about 3/4 of the way. Let's see, till about 3/4 of the way exactly. Leave about that much out, and everything's back to good and strong. Shock's in a good position. You can come back to the second hole. I think on the blue truck, yeah, the blue truck I am in the middle hole. This guy's all the way in the rear, so I might actually change him, bring him forward, just because of the way the rear end travels forward. You can already see the difference in how much it's lowered in the rear, just by this side to that side. Okay, so we're going to quickly finish off this side. We're going to throw the body on it, throw a battery in it, take it on the hill, and do some crawling along with the blue guy, and it's going to look a lot better than the first run that we had with it, so stay tuned. Okay guys, one last thing we forgot to go over really quickly with you is these nice little scale stamped plastic beadlock wheels. There's too much mass on the backside, and you can't tighten it all the way down without it binding on the hub. When we got the truck, the wheels were just loose left on it, so it would actually move. But you do want to tighten up your wheels so they don't flop around. If they are flopping around, they're going to be binding. So what we did was took some 120 sandpaper, took this little diamond-shaped patch from our mouse sander, and we just gone around and sanded the inside of the hub. Give it a couple sands, go in circular motion, give it a turn, quarter turn, sand, 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 quarter turn, and then you could drop your pin in the hole, and you want half of your pin sticking out of the hole, maybe just even just a little bit, but as long as some of it is sticking out, it won't sit down tight on the truck. And then you can put the wheel onto the truck and make sure everything is not binding and fitting nice. So there, we can snug the wheel completely down now, nice and tight, and it's nice and free. So that is one of the other mods we need to do. Now, if you look at how that thing is sitting from when we started the video, it looks a hell of a lot more scale, a lot more nicer. It should have been sitting at this height when they came out of the box. Your LCG or your center of gravity or cog is lower, far lower. It's only a few millimeters, but it does a ton, as you guys will see when we go wheel these right away. Yeah, so basically, there's your mods that you guys are asking what to do to these trucks to make them perform better. Now, we're going to come back into this in a week or so. Once we figure out which motors, which motor gearboxes are going to work great, we're going to swap out that N30 motor that they've given us onto the other gear ratio transmissions that we bought, or little gearboxes. We got, it's a 30-to-1. So we ordered a 50 to 1, a 75 to 1, and a 100 to 1. We're going to throw them into the truck, so we actually ordered 2 of each, so we can kind of ballpark and figure out which ones work best. And we'll do some testing, and we'll let you guys know. So when it comes time to order, you can make sure you get the right one. So enough about that. We're going to go take these guys and hit them up on our little scale mountain, and then the next video we're going to do the detail like this on this one. So we'll do the bed and interior and all that nice stuff. So, and the headlights and marker lights and all that pretty stuff. Put some LEDs in them, and by that time the motors should be here, or the gearboxes with motors attached should be here, and we'll be able to dial them in and get them crawling just a little bit slower, and then they'll be really good. And I think I'm going to switch the tires on mine to the little 1.7 inch MTRs that RC4WD just came out with. So they shared it on their Instagram this morning, a red one with some different wheels and tires. Look really good. So we'll get those coming to you, so stay tuned for that coming up, and let's go run these. Okay guys, that brings us to the end of the free mods video for the RC4 drive TF2, Trailfinder 2. In this last part of the video, we lowered the trucks. We freed up the drive line by just spinning them, loosening them, checking everything, re-greasing, spinning with the drill, making sure everything's flowing good. And we modified the steering so we're getting more steering angle. As you can see, the drive shafts sit a lot more flat underneath the truck. They're not such a high angle. So that's helping a lot. That was putting a lot of stress actually on the little motor. And in the next week, we should have our 50, 75, and 100 to 1 gearboxes that we can start to put them in. We did order those in pairs, so we're going to find the sweet spot, and we're going to put them in the trucks, and we're going to run them back on the mountain and kind of keep messing with them. We're going to go between all three of them, find out which one we like the most. I have a feeling it's going to be probably the 75-ish range, the 50, 75. We'll see. We got the 100 just in case, but... So yeah, stay tuned. That video should be up. We should have those motors in about a week and a half. I'm not too sure. But the next video we're going to do will be detailing this guy and adding lights to both the trucks and by that time our parts should be in, and then we can focus on getting the gear ratios down a little bit more on these guys and get them more into a little more crawler spec. Thanks for stopping in today, guys. We'll see you on the next one next weekend. We'll be bringing more of this, and don't worry, we're just waiting on parts for our Team Garage Hack build. We should have the parts we need in this week, so that video should be up pretty soon too. Cheers, see you on the next one.